So One Piece 998 is out, and it didn't disappoint. Oda gave us some new reveals which were really informative, and I think it was a solid chapter all in all. And the chapter finished off with Yamato filling us in on some important information which I can't wait to find out more on. But enough of me talking, let's get on with this review. And as a heads up, I want you all to remember that I am reading the early scans for this review, so of course when the official chapter drops on Sunday, some of the translations or meanings may have changed. But the scans should give us a good idea or a good indication of what's going on. Now of course, as usual, before I get started, make sure you leave a like on the video as it helps me out so much with that YouTube algorithm. And ensure that you subscribe to the channel so that you never miss out when I drop more content just like this. And now the formalities are out of the way, let's get into this chapter review. Now I don't want to spend too much time on the cover page, which continues on with the fan requests that we've been getting ever since the Capone Oh My Family story. And the cover art we get this week is of a Nell and some sort of cat, and I guess there will be a few people who assume that this means that Enel must be coming back into the story soon. But I do think that's a little bit of a reach, even though I do enjoy Enel's character and I can't wait to see him, so hopefully he returns to the story back soon. The chapter starts off with where we left off last chapter, and that's Kaido lifting Onigashima towards the flower capital, which honestly does amaze me, but evidently is to the shock of the fodder characters on the stage too, who are also confused as to why Marco's in Wano and whose side he's on. Now as we know, there have been a large proportion of individuals that have been infected by Queen's plague bullets, including Chopper, who figured out that it was some sort of ice infection and that he would need heat in order to suppress the virus until the antidote had been mass produced. So here comes Marco, who appears to have just attacked Chopper with his flames, and Zoro and Brook fear that Marco is an enemy and attempt to cut him. And it's actually quite funny as Marco literally just flies up and both attacks miss him, before Chopper realizes that even though he's on fire, it's not actually burning him, and Marco's flame is just suppressing the virus, which I mean all of us kind of knew since Oda spoke about the special properties of Marco's flame. However, as the panels continue, we get the reintroduction of the Mink medical staff we met in Zou, and they've got the preparations in place in order for Chopper to mass produce the antidote. And honestly, the only thing that shocked me here was the fact that they travelled to this war too, but I suppose that they're there to heal the wounded minks regardless. Now Marco, acknowledging how many individuals were turning into ice demons and also losing their minds, realizes that he must do something, and with the greatest of ease he literally uses some form of attack named Passive Flame, and I expect that this name might change in the official translations, but ultimately, as he did with Chopper, it neutralizes all of the warriors to Queen's disgust and frustrations. It's at this point where Marco calls out to Zoro that he shouldn't be wasting his time down here and that he'll deal with things on this floor, but if he needs a lift to the top of Onigashima, that he could fly him up there. And it's actually really cool because this is something that many of us in the community proposed might happen. But something else I really liked here is Marco mentioning to the likes of Robin and Brook that they're also not fodder and shouldn't be wasting their time down here too. But Brook mentions that they must protect Chopper as he produces the antibody, and just as he finishes this sentence, here comes Apu. And honestly, I don't know what to make of this, as I could use this to trigger the hardcore Zoro fans who believe that he one-shot Apu, or use it to say that Apu is actually nothing to be played about with and he's actually very durable. But I'll leave that to you guys and girls to discuss. But as I mentioned, Apu is back for vengeance, but unfortunately here comes X-Drake in his zone form, and he literally grabs Apu in his mouth and explains to everyone to leave the floor to him and he'll deal with things here. And Zoro says something really clever here and really funny, and he says that it was clever for Drake to join the winning side. And one thing I want to mention here is that Oda makes a point of highlighting Drake's fruit, being I think it's the Allosaurus, but I just think it's really interesting that he reminded us of this. The action moves on to the 4th floor where we have Jinbei and Luffy, and they're discussing where Sanji is, and Jinbei, being a man of faith, believes that Sanji may have sensed a strong enemy and went to go stop them. And honestly, Oda's such a troll here because we get this comedic comment from Luffy like damn, it appears that my observation haki needs work, basically suggesting that Luffy thought that Sanji's observation haki was stronger than his and could sense things further away. And for me, this is absolutely hilarious because they have so much faith in Sanji, but we know the real reason why he ran off. However, Luffy and Jinbei continue fighting the fodder which are coming their way before Jinbei mentions that it appears that he'll have to stay on the floor and he'll have to create an opening for Luffy to keep pushing on. The action moves on to the central passage where we have Franky and Sasuke, and let me just say, Franky might be MVP for me so far because he's not let us down and been consistently solid. And here he's fighting all of Sasuke's troops before Sasuke's had enough and tells them all to move aside and transforms into his zone form that Oda highlights as a Triceratops, which actually looks quite good, and Sasuke mentions that dinosaurs are the strongest creatures that have ever lived or something along those lines. We then move on again to the banquet hall where we have a trapped Sanji and Black Maria, and Sanji is trying to leave as he mentions he's got somewhere more important to be. But we're introduced to Black Maria's devil fruit now, and honestly this definitely shocked me because she's got the Rosa Margale fruit, and I know I butchered the pronunciation of that, but it's a spider fruit, and it all comes full circle with Sanji getting caught in the spider web. And honestly it's just a weird fruit as she has about 8 heads popping out of her, and Sanji continues being a comedian because he's like, damn, so many women, I'm in heaven. Oda jumps back to show us what's going on with Jinbei and the path he opened up for Luffy, and he's in the cat caf, and there's a saber-toothed tiger zone engaging in dialogue with Jinbei, explaining that they never expected a former warlord of the sea to be going against them, and this saber-toothed tiger is Who's Who. And Jinbei very promptly corrects him, mentioning that he's actually the helmsman of the Straw Hat Pirates and prefers that he's called by that title as it means so much more. And honestly, I love this from Jinbei. He's telling us that it's an honor to be called the helmsman of the future Pirate King. And Jinbei doesn't even know who he's talking to here, as Who's in his own form, but I suspect that there may be a little bit of history here, as Who's Who mentions that he caught a glimpse of him when he was a warlord, but Jinbei won't get the opportunity to see his face. As the chapter draws to a close, we cut to Ulti in page 1 searching for Nami and Usopp, and once again we're reintroduced to the names of their fruits. And then lastly, we go into the dome storeroom where Yamato had brought Momonuske and mentions it's a safe place as nobody goes there. Momo's eyes get hold of a statue of a dragon, to which he asks, "What is this?" And Yamato goes on to explain, it used to be placed at the entrance of the island until a friend of hers came to the island and broke it, and it was left in storage ever since. Momo questions who this friend was, and Yamato explains it was a friend who came a few years ago to kill her father, Kaido. And at the back of the panel we get a shaded silhouette of who else but Portuguese D Ace. And that brings the chapter to an end. And for me, what a perfect way to end the chapter. The chapter was solid, and the name Ancient Zones was fitting as Oda literally introduced us to all of the fruits of the Flying Six members. And for me, there's not much more I could have asked for in this chapter. The positive note is that there's no break next week, but the downside is that next week will be the final chapter of the year before we get that big chapter 1000 next year. But I guess that brings this video to an end. Make sure you all support the official release, as I will be on Sunday, and as always, if you like anything I've had to say, please make sure you leave a like on the video, and if you would like to see more content just like this, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you never miss out when I drop more gems just like this. Safe.